WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and 7 p.m. in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink live on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. The world commemorates International Radio Day 2026 with focus on AI.
The World Radio Day is here, and the significance of AI cannot be driven aside because with AI, broadcasting is made easy.
Burkina Faso and Russia signed framework agreements to deepen strategic ties. West African bloc launches regional partnership for democracy and credible elections at AU Summit.
West Africa has witnessed instances in which threats to democratic order have been anticipated, contained, and neutralized through collective action.
And the Gambia unveils Border Patrol Unit deploys 100 new officers amid rising migration trend. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
On the news, this is a more edit.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and happy World Radio Day. Newslink begins with a commemoration of World Radio Day 2026, proclaimed in 2011 by UNESCO member states and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. The day is celebrated every February 13 to thank broadcasters for the news they deliver, the voices they amplify, and the stories they share. This year's theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence, opens up a whole new field of discussion, creation, and exploration. According to experts, artificial intelligence (AI) unlocks a new chapter when used ethically and responsibly to support professional judgment, creativity, and public service values. AI can become an ally in strengthening audience trust. And this report, WDL's Usman Umar, gives a detailed account of radio and AI in the 21st century.
Today is February 13, 2026. Across the globe, millions are tuning in to celebrate World Radio Day. But here in the heart of our community, the crackle of the airwaves is meeting a new frequency, the digital hum of artificial intelligence. For over a century, radio has been our companion. Today, we ask, can a machine help us tell our stories better? Or are we risking the very human touch that makes radio home?
So for me, in the broadcast era, institutions must choose between relevance and obsolescence. So for the Radio World Day, what I'm asking is, what kind of AI-powered newsroom and intelligence systems are you building?
That was Dr. Celestine Archie, an AI specialist. Inside our newsroom, the change is tangible. For Aisha, a familiar voice on radio in Nigeria, AI has transformed the grind of journalism into a streamlined craft.
So for me, AI has been really amazing and wonderful. It, reduces the workload for me. First, it helps me to transcribe interviews within minutes instead of the long hours I take transcribing my interviews. Also, AI helps me to restructure headlines. I write down my headlines and then I take it to AI. It helps me restructure it perfectly. It also helps to, draft scripts and even summarize my write-up. AI helps me to do that.
As we look towards the rest of 2026, the message of the World Radio Day is one of balance. We will use the AI to work faster, edit cleaner, and reach further, but we will never let the algorithm replace the mind.
The World Radio Day is here, and the significance of AI cannot be driven aside because with AI, broadcasting is made easy.
Radio remains the most resilient, accessible, and trusted medium in Africa, whether powered by a battery or an algorithm. Its purpose remains the same: to serve, to inform, and to develop this community we call home. Happy World Radio Day.
Usman Umar filed that report. We turn to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where the 39th African Union Summit is underway. On migration, on the margins of the summit, a West African delegation led by Nigeria has unveiled the Regional Partnership for Democracy. The initiative seeks to promote civic education, strengthen democratic institutions, and support transparent and credible elections across the region. Launched last November, the project comes during a declining public trust in governance amid political instability, insecurity and corruption. As Abdullahi Hassan reports, foreign ministers from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Mauritania, Sudan and South Africa, alongside the AU Commissioner for Peace and Security, attended the forum.
At the CISSA auditorium in Addis, delegates, technical partners and UN officials highlighted Nigeria's emphasis on peace and security as the foundation for sustained democracy. Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, states that the Regional Partnership for Democracy, RPD, aims to safeguard democratic governance against threats such as coups and widespread political instability.
Drawing on the core democratic tenets embodied in the RPD, which are constitutionalism, accountability, inclusion, dialogue, and institutional resilience, West Africa has witnessed instances in which threats to democratic order have been anticipated, contained, and neutralized through collective action.
Sierra Leone, the current ECOWAS chair, is a key stakeholder in the initiative. Weakening electoral processes, youth disengagement, and information environment are priority concerns under the partnership, according to Foreign Minister Musa Timothy Kaba.
As leaders, unless and until we provide services for our people, we include our people in governance, we ensure that there is accountability and there is checks and balances in the dispensation of public funds, we will lose the trust of our people.
UNDP, a technical partner, says the initiative reflects renewed political will and strengthened cooperation among member states. Haruna Ezakonwa, UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Africa Bureau, speaks.
Democratic governance must translate into improved security, sustainable development, accessible essential services, meaningful opportunities for young people, but also a renewed hope for a better future.
It is worth noting that West Africa alone has recorded between 8 and 10 military takeovers in the last 5 years. Thus, countries at the 39th AU Summit are aligning national and regional priorities through partnerships such as RPD to rebuild public trust, strengthen governance, and reinforce democratic resilience. From Addis Ababa, Abdullahi Hassan for West Africa Democracy Radio.
Meanwhile, Burkina Faso and Russia have signed a new framework agreement. The agreement signed by Burkina Faso's Foreign Minister Karamako Jean-Marie Traoré and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov seeks to strengthen bilateral cooperation between Ouagadougou and Moscow. It further consolidates ties between the two countries, which have grown significantly since Captain Ibrahim Traoré assumed power. Described by the Burkinabe Foreign Minister as a historic document, the agreement sets out key sectors for enhanced cooperation, defines a structured working approach, and outlines a shared vision between both governments. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov welcomed the conclusion of the talks, expressing satisfaction with what he called a solid, pragmatic, and exemplary partnership. Moscow also reaffirmed its commitment to supporting Burkina Faso in the fight against terrorism. Away from Burkina Faso, Liberia's House of Representatives is considering a bill to ensure the inclusion, protection, and empowerment of persons living with disabilities. The proposed legislation aims to dismantle barriers to employment, education, and serve social services, offering a pathway to independence and dignity for a marginalized community. According to citizens, this crucial step towards equality could set a new standard for human rights in the region. WDL's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Representative Ruki Barry of Monserrado County District 1, the bill's proponent, argued for its passage, emphasizing the urgent need to address the systemic discrimination faced by persons with disabilities in Liberia. Representative Barry highlighted the difficulties faced by educated individuals with disabilities in securing employment, advocating for a quota system where government institutions would employ at least 2 persons with disabilities.
There is no real law that is there to actually protect these people. So because you have disability does not mean that you are less of a human than the other person. And so it is based upon that we are taught that it would be good for us to make sure that there are laws that's going to be guiding and protecting these people.
She stressed that such measures would not only provide financial independence, but also combat the stigma and social isolation experienced by many.
It's going to make them also independent. I think the government should also even train them. When you empower them through training, some of them can do business. Some of these people, they are intelligent. The only good thing you can do for them is to make sure you create the opportunity for them to get a job. Most of them feel that they are stigmatized.
The proposed legislation titled An Aid to provide for the inclusion, employment and support for all persons with disabilities within the Republic of Liberia is now under review by the House Committees on Health and the Judiciary with a 2-week deadline for assessment. This swift action underscores the urgency and importance attached to the bill, highlighting a turning point for disability rights in Liberia. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And to more stories, here in Senegal, a vessel belonging to the National Navy capsized on Thursday at the mouth of the Senegal River, leaving 3 sailors missing and 10 others rescued. The incident was confirmed by the Directorate of Information and Public Relations of the Armed Forces. In a statement, authorities said the incident is believed to have been caused by heavy swells following deterioration in weather conditions. Such efforts are ongoing to find the 3 missing Navy personnel. Meanwhile, the Gambia has taken a major step to tighten border security. On Thursday, the country graduated 100 officers into its newly created Border Patrol Unit. The passing out ceremony held at the Fajara Barracks Parade Ground comes amid a reported surge in migration-related activities. WDR's Banjo correspondent Sang Dinamendi reports.
Authorities say the newly established Border Patrol Unit will play a frontline role in combating irregular migration, strengthening border surveillance, and reinforcing national security. The initiative forms part of the broader institutional reforms within the Gambia Immigration Department aimed at building a more professional, efficient, and responsive service to address evolving border management challenges. Director General of the Gambia Immigration Department, Ibrahim Ambob, reminded the graduating officers of their critical responsibility in safeguarding the country's land and coastal entry points.
You have been entrusted with a profound responsibility to secure our borders, to facilitate legitimate and regular travel, and to protect vulnerable youth who may be moving through the Mediterranean Sea.
National Security Advisor Abubakar Suleiman Jeng urged the officers to uphold discipline, professionalism, and integrity in the execution of their duties.
You are the first generation of a newly established dedicated Border Patrol Unit, tasked with securing the Gambia's borders, which would require professionalism, courage, unalloyed loyalty, and service to the nation.
Officials say the deployment of the 100 officers is expected to significantly boost operational capacity at key border points. The move comes as the Immigration Department reports a marked increase in migration-related activities between 1st January 2025 and 8 January 2026, with the sharpest rise recorded in the final quarter of 2025 through early January 2026. Authorities say the new unit positions the Gambia to respond more decisively to emerging migration and border security pressures. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
In Ghana, the government announced sweeping reforms to stabilize the country's cocoa sector, including a reduction in the producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season and a new financing and pricing framework for cocoa board. Finance Minister Dr. Cassiel Atto-Forson outlines comprehensive measures to restore financial stability and long-term sustainability to the cocoa sector. WDR's Accra correspondent Nadi Detete reports.
Key among the reforms, as announced by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Tofosun, is a reduction in the producer price. According to the Minister, the new rates reflect 90% of the achieved gross free on-board price of $4,200 per tonne, following a sharp decline in global cocoa prices. The Minister said falling world prices have made Ghana's cocoa uncompetitive and financially unsustainable under the previous structure.
The world market price has dropped significantly from the average of 7,200 tons to 4,100 per ton, making Ghana's cocoa beans uncompetitive and creating liquidity challenges. As a result of that, the PPLC thereby announces that effective Thursday, 12 February 2026, the new producer price for the remainder of the 2025-2026 crop season will now be 41,392 Ghana cedis per ton and 2,587 Ghana cedis per bag. This measure has become necessary to reflect the reality of the world market price of cocoa, ensure the injection of immediate liquidity for expedited payment of farmers, and guarantee the sustainability of our cocoa sector.
Government will also present a new cocoa board bill to Parliament to introduce an automatic producer price adjustment mechanism linked to global market trends and exchange rate movement while guaranteeing farmers a minimum of 70% of gross FOB. A new financing model using domestic cocoa bonds will replace the syndicated loan system to improve liquidity. From the 2026-2027 crop season, at least 50% of cocoa beans will be processed locally. The produce buying company and cocoa processing company are also set to be revived. The Finance Minister will further seek parliamentary approval to convert 5.8 billion cedis in legacy debt to restore Cocoa Board's balance sheet. Government says the reforms are critical to rebuilding confidence and securing the future of Ghana's cocoa industry. For WDR, Nadedi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of the top stories. The world commemorates International Radio Day 2026 with focus on AI. Burkina Faso and Russia signed framework agreements to deepen strategic ties. West African Bloc launches regional partnership for democracy and credible elections at AU Summit. And the Gambia unveils Border Patrol Unit deploys 100 new officers amid rising migration trend. Still ahead, we do have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org and full live streamings on YouTube and Facebook. Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has ignited a fresh debate on generational change in African politics. He is calling for younger leaders to play a greater role in shaping the continent's future. Correspondent Yechinu Sasicho gives the details.
Speaking at a public event, Goodluck Jonathan said Africa's political systems must evolve to reflect the energy, innovation, and lived realities of its largely youthful population. He argued that leadership across the continent should increasingly mirror younger generations, noting that many African nations continue to be governed by leaders significantly older than the demographic majority they represent. While acknowledging the value of experience in governance, the former president stressed the need to create clear and structured pathways for young people to participate meaningfully in leadership and decision-making. His comments come at a time when conversations around political inclusion, youth participation, and governance reform are intensifying across Africa, a continent where young people make up a substantial share of the population, but often feel excluded from formal power structures. Jonathan's remarks are expected to further fuel discussions about leadership renewal and the pace of political reform across the region. For WADR, Yechini Sasitu in Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment focuses on the commemoration of World Radio Day 2026, proclaimed in 2011 by UNESCO member states and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. The day is celebrated every February 13 to thank broadcasters for the news they deliver, the voices they amplify, and the stories they share. This year's theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence, opens a new whole field of discussion, creation and exploitation. According to expert, artificial intelligence, AI, unlocks a new chapter when used ethically and responsibly to support professional judgment, creativity, and public service values. AI can become an ally in strengthening audience trust. Our guest is Tijanti, a media expert and head of Educom, a specialized institution in Senegal that offers training in communication journalism, web, and multimedia. It begins with AI challenges for community radio journalists.
Well, I think for community radio stations, particularly in Africa, the big challenge would be the fact that they work in African languages. And we all know that we have a few attempts of a few experiments of having African languages integrated
AI,
in this AI technology, but it's still very experimental, still very low. For them to really profit from this technology, these AI tools need to understand African languages, and that's a huge issue. Meaning, instead of being just consumers, because we who are working in English, in French, or other Western languages, we don't have big issues. But if you're working in a community radio station, trying to have an AI transcribe your audio in your local language, I think it's a challenge. Actually, I was chatting with Gemini and asking Gemini whether what they could do in my own local language, in my own native language, and Gemini told me I have serious limitations because the volume of words and knowledge I have on that language is very minimal. So we have to continue the conversation in French. And for me, really, the concern is not the tool, but how do we use the tool, the issue of responsibility, the issue of ownership.
Source information. Let's see. But before you respond, let me just add this. I mean, we've been to the field where there is no form of technology. People are going about their farm works, cattle works with transistor radio, and they still enjoy the broadcast that comes through that day because of that transistor radio. Let's have your response to that.
Yeah, because I think one thing that people tend to forget, and because particularly when you're in an urban environment, you tend to think internet is everything because you've got the smartphone. But the minute you go inside our countries, I mean, you go into the hinterlands, then you realize it's where you realize the power of radio. I don't have the numbers, but in terms of penetration, radio is the number one medium in Africa. So wherever you go, I mean, nomad groups, people in far, very remote areas still use radio for all that, all the reasons Sadibu just told us. And even in the cities now, with the smartphone, I think because we're in an era of convergence. We are here in a studio, but I mean, you're broadcasting with video images and everything. I think it remains a key element in rural areas, but also in urban settings because it's integrated in the smartphone. People still use it. We've seen now the emergence of podcast with the medium is changing, but the soul of radio is still there. Those who love podcasts means they're still listening.
How in your time, how did you see radio? How was radio then before the advent of all of these technologies?
Those days, it was the king. Actually, it's still the king. I can remember. I learned my English through radio. I used to listen a lot to the BBC English service, to the Radio Netherlands those days. Used to use it to improve my Portuguese. So it was something. And in every family, you would have radio was the big for everything, not only for information, but entertainment, education, almost everything. And you go into the rural areas, it's still the case. People rely very much on radio for almost everything that play a very important social role.
Do you think listeners should be informed of this advent of artificial intelligence so they can, especially those in the rural areas who don't know much, I must say, about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, but a human being is a human being. Authenticity, if I produce a program, I was talking about my own native language. If I produce a Pulaar program in Pulaar read by artificial intelligence, they might say, no, this is not somebody who speaks Pulaar. They might know. It would be so sophisticated, so machine like, that it's very easy to identify. So probably the little subtleties they might not know, but where you lack the humanity, because radio is about authenticity, it's about humanity. If we lose those two dimensions, I'm not sure people will love it. I'm not sure.
Mr. Tijan C is a media expert, and he was our guest on the World Radio Day webinar held earlier. In sport news, the president of the Confederation of African Football CAF, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, alongside top members of the continental body's leadership, has arrived in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, ahead of a highly anticipated Executive Committee Exco meeting. According to sources within CAF, the meeting's agenda will focus on strategic decisions concerning major CAF competitions and flagship continental tournaments. Discussions are also expected to center on strengthening development programs among member associations, with emphasis on grassroots football infrastructure growth and administrative capacity building. The Exco session is widely regarded as a pivotal moment for African football governance, with several competitions and long-term projects on the horizon. The decisions taken in Dar es Salaam are likely to influence policy direction, competition structures, and broader governance priorities in the month ahead. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Smaila Kamara and Maunaju for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook at WADR English. I am Imo Edet. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Imi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
West Africa Democracy Radio is live in Addis Ababa from Wednesday, February 11 to Sunday, February 15, 2026. Stay locked on West Africa Democracy Radio.